Does a narcissist love you or just what you provide? My care is something that I give, not the price I pay to be loved. Important boundary. Caregiving, acts of service, depending on one another, these can be healthy expressions of love. The warning sign is not that someone needs you, it's that your needs, your limits, and your separate personhood repeatedly disappear. Warmth, safety, or belonging seem conditional on what you provide. Roleplay take one. I love you when you make my life work. You're perfect. You always know how to make me feel better. You know just how to calm me down. You're always there when I need you. Just don't start needing too much from me. But when you say no, I treat you like you've changed. End of roleplay. Perhaps you did not change. Perhaps you simply became visible. Do they love you? Or do they mainly love what you do for them? Maybe you reassure them, admire them, organize their life. You keep the house running, or you absorb their frustration. You smooth over every conflict, and you remind them over and over that they are still a good person. When you're doing all of that, the relationship may feel warm. You may even feel deeply needed. The real test comes when you stop performing the role. What happens when you're tired? When you disagree? What happens when you need support? Or when you say no? Or when you tell them that they hurt you? I'm Darren Elliott. I'm a registered psychotherapist, and I'm the creator of Love Loops. I work with narcissistic, emotionally immature, and attachment-driven relationship patterns, including people who are ready to examine their own impact. This video is general education. It cannot diagnose you or your partner or your relationship. And needing one another is not the problem. Healthy relationships include care, service, sacrifice, interdependence. And sometimes one person carries more because the other person's ill or grieving or disabled or overwhelmed or simply had a terrible season. Love does not require perfect equal spreadsheet every day. But over time, healthy love still recognizes two people, two inner lives, two sets of feelings, two sets of needs and limits. The problem begins when one person becomes like a function. In narcissistic relationship patterns, a partner may be experienced mainly through what they provide. When you admire me, I feel valuable. When you agree with me, I feel secure. When you organize my life, I feel cared for. When you absorb my anger without challenging me, I feel safe. When you keep everything running, I don't have to face my own limits. I may genuinely feel loving towards you while that system is working. But if you stop providing the feeling of service that I depend on, my warmth may disappear. My boundary feels like rejection. Your boundary feels like rejection. Your exhaustion feels to me like it's selfishness. Your disagreement feels like it's betrayal. Your pain feels like an accusation. Instead of becoming curious about your experience, I try to put you back in your role. This does not always happen through a conscious plan. Someone may not be sitting there thinking, now how can I reduce my partner to a household appliance with feelings? Often the pattern is automatic. But automatic does not mean harmless. And loving someone in some moments does not erase the damage done in other moments. Now here's the fear loop. You become useful. Your usefulness brings warmth, approval, or temporary peace. So you learn, this is how I stay loved. You do more. You anticipate needs even before they're spoken. You prevent disappointment. You make yourself easier to deal with, easier to live with. Your own needs begin to feel a little dangerous or inconvenient or selfish, so you hide them. But the more you disappear, the smoother the relationship may look from the outside. And because the system appears to be working, everyone expects you to keep it working. Your usefulness becomes your identity. And then the loop starts again. My own mother lived inside a version of this pattern for decades. She cared deeply about her family, and she genuinely valued taking care of us. But over time, service became so much more than something she gave. It became the role she believed she was supposed to occupy. The house had to run. Dinner had to be ready. My father's comfort and pride, well, it had to be protected. And his contempt, well, that became something to avoid, but also something she absorbed. Eventually, she had difficulty seeing what treatment was normal, what she deserved, and where his story about her ended and her own identity began. It doesn't mean she was weak. Quite the opposite. She is a strong woman. It shows what can happen when belonging is repeatedly tied to usefulness. A person adapts. They call survival devotion. They call self-erasure kindness. They may even say, this is all I ever wanted. And perhaps caring really was a big part of what they wanted. But choosing to care is not the same as being required to disappear. This is why, but they need me, is not enough to tell you whether a relationship is loving. Someone can need you. They can need your labor, your money, your support, your attention, your emotional regulation. They might need your forgiveness, your admiration, or your ability to keep the family looking functional. Being needed can feel so meaningful, but it can also keep you trapped in a role that is slowly taking over. The better question is, what happens to the relationship when I'm not useful? Am I still treated with tenderness when I'm tired? Am I allowed to disagree? Can I need care without being treated like I'm a burden? Can I set a limit without being punished? Can I be disappointed without having to comfort the person who disappointed me, to not hurt their feelings with my disappointment that I have to hide? My inner life, is it important, or only the impact I have on theirs? See, the interruption begins here. My care is something I give, not the price I pay to be loved. And that does not mean you stop caring. It means you begin noticing what has been happening to you while you care. And you ask, what do I genuinely choose to give? What do I give because I'm afraid of anger? What do I give because I'm afraid of withdrawal or abandonment? What needs have I been hiding? What happens when I say no? Does the other person care about my experience, even when it inconveniences them? If you are the over-functioning partner, the love loop might begin with one honest sentence. I want to help, but I can't do that right now. Or I can't do that tonight. Or I've been listening to your feelings for an hour. I need you to make some room for mine. Not sure what's going to happen. I love you, and I will not accept being spoken to with that contempt. A boundary is not a trick that makes another person behave well. A boundary is information that we should want to know about each other. It's about what you will participate in and what you will, what's okay with you and what isn't. The response to your boundary gives you a lot of information. Looking at the love loop diagram, in a love loop, care still exists, but the care moves in both directions. We can recognize separate needs. We speak them. We respect limits. We share responsibility. We notice when one person has been carrying too much. And when the relationship becomes unbalanced, we repair instead of demanding more from the exhausted person. Reciprocity does not mean identical tasks. It means both people's humanity has equal value. One person may cook while the other is handling the bills, or one may need physical support while offering emotional care, humor, companionship, or whatever is realistically available. The exact contribution can differ. But one person does not become the relationship's permanent servant, the emotional shock observer, the unpaid crisis department. If you recognize yourself as the person receiving the care, this is not an invitation to collapse into shame. This is an invitation to become curious. When your partner says no, do you still recognize them as loving? Or do you suddenly devalue them in your head? When they're tired, do you offer care? Or do you accuse them of failing you? You make it about you. Do you know what they need? Can they be unhappy without you becoming annoyed? Do your apologies lead to change behavior or mainly to restore access to them? Because real change means learning to love a person who is separate from you, not only the version of them that keeps you comfortable. You can learn to tolerate disappointment. You can ask instead of expect. You can hear a boundary without it turning into abandonment. You can take responsibility for tasks you have allowed someone else to carry. And you can repair without demanding that the exhausted person has to reassure you first. If you recognize yourself as the person who has disappeared into service, don't use this video as an online diagnostic test. It is not. But look at the pattern. Look at what happens when you become inconvenient. Look at whether concern and change follow honest conversations or whether you are repeatedly punished for having needs. And remember, you cannot create neutrality alone. You can speak clearly, you can stop over functioning, you can set boundaries, You can examine your own fear, but you cannot do someone else's accountability for them. Love is not, you take care of me and I reward you with warmth. Love is, your experience also matters, even when it asks something of me. And my experience matters even when it disappoints you. We can care for one another without either person disappearing. This is a love loop. I'm Darren Elliott, a registered psychotherapist and creator of Love Loops. If this helped, watch episode 1. How does a narcissist see their partner? In episode 2, your tone isn't always an attack. And coming up, episode 4, I was ashamed of a body that was never shameful.